Ashes of Earth, detailed story, 1,000 words. The Veydrath Empire had always believed in the superiority of their intellect, their technology, their civilization. To them, humans were primitive creatures, insignificant sparks on a dying rock in a corner of the galaxy. That assumption cost them dearly. It began with the firestorm. Within hours, the capital cities of Earth were reduced to molten ash. The oceans boiled, and the atmosphere burned with 1,000 different chemical reactions as the Veydrath warships loomed overhead. Humanity's armies were powerless. Our weapons were primitive. Our fleets laughable. In the eyes of the Veydrath, it was a simple conquest, a quick, final extinction. Yet, in the shadows of the obliterated cities, in underground bunkers and hidden colonies, humanity endured. Survivors, engineers, soldiers, scientists, and ordinary people scrambled to escape Earth. Fleets of cargo ships, scavenged freighters, and makeshift escape pods streaked into orbit, carrying fragments of civilization across the stars. Among them was Commander Mara Kaelen, a former pilot and tactician, who had watched the skies burn above her home. She had lost everything, her family, her friends, her home, but she carried one unyielding truth. Humanity survived. In the scattered colonies of Droska, Nine, Rinder, and Zephyr's Edge, humans found refuge. But survival alone was not enough. They had to evolve or die a slow, scattered death among the stars. The Veydrath believed we were primitive, but they underestimated our adaptability. Humans began studying alien technology, scavenging remnants of Veydrath drones, weapons, and starships. Engineers reverse-engineered energy shields, propulsion systems, and weapon arrays. Scientists studied Veydrath communication networks and artificial intelligence systems, finding weaknesses and exploiting them in secret. In the hidden labs of Droska, 9, Mara oversaw the transformation. "They think we're still crawling on Earth," she said to her officers. "But while they celebrate our extinction, we're learning their secrets. We're not just surviving, we're preparing to take what's theirs." The first victories were small but significant. Supply convoys vanished in transit, ambushed by human fighters using stolen cloaking technology. Research stations exploded with precision strikes that left no trace, save the signature of human ingenuity. Word of these attacks spread across the colonies. Humans were fighting back. It was in these moments of hidden resistance that humanity found unity. Former enemies joined together. Politics dissolved in the face of survival. Mara Kaelen became more than commander. She became a symbol, a rallying point for the scattered remnants of Earth. But the Veydrath were not oblivious. They noted the anomalies, the missing convoys, the inexplicable sabotage. Their analysts were baffled. How could such primitive creatures, with nothing but makeshift fleets and crude weapons, strike with such precision? Mara knew the truth. It wasn't just weapons or technology. It was human ingenuity, human resilience. Every failure the Veydrath inflicted had only sharpened our minds, forged our strategies, and hardened our resolve. They thought they had burned the heart of humanity, but they had only stoked the fire. By the time the Veydrath Empire thought humans had scattered and would fade into obscurity, Mara Kaelen had already charted the first steps of retaliation. A secret armada was being assembled, stolen ships refitted, and crews trained in alien tactics. Every colony contributed. Every survivor had a role. Humanity would rise, and when we did, we would show the Veydrath that what they called primitive was actually unstoppable. In the darkness of space, among the stars that once seemed so cold and distant, humanity prepared. We were no longer the creatures of Earth. We were hunters, strategists, and survivors. The galaxy would soon learn a lesson we had long known. Underestimate humanity at your peril. The hidden rise. The stars were no longer silent witnesses. They had become battlegrounds. Humanity, once scattered and broken, was beginning to rise in the shadows, unseen and underestimated by the Veydrath Empire. What the aliens thought were primitive survivors were now a hidden force, learning, adapting, and striking with precision. Commander Mara Kaelen moved among the colonies like a phantom. Her presence was felt more than seen. In the orbital shipyards of Droska, 9, human engineers worked tirelessly to retrofit captured alien vessels. Energy shields, plasma cannons, and navigation systems, once the pride of the Veydrath, were being twisted and reassembled into ships that flew under human control. Every new vessel was a statement. We were no longer prey. Humans had learned the cruel efficiency of the Veydrath. Their tactics were brutal, their strikes precise, but predictable. Mara taught her crews to think like the enemy, to anticipate the cold, calculating decisions of a species that considered itself superior. Ambushes were planned not just to destroy, but to terrorize. Supply lines vanished without trace. Reconnaissance drones exploded in mid-flight. Colonists who had once lived in fear now whispered rumors of a rising human fleet, a force that struck where none expected, then disappeared like smoke in the void. It was not only in technology that humans were evolving. Mara trained squads of operatives in alien languages, military protocols, and hacking techniques. Small teams infiltrated Veydrath outposts, stealing data, sabotaging infrastructure, and leaving behind chaos. The humans did not just fight. They learned, they adapted. They turned the Empire's strengths against them. On the remote colony of Arinder, Mara addressed a gathering of leaders. "We are no longer the species they mocked," she said. Her voice carried to the assembly hall, a spark of fire in the dim light. "They see us as primitive. That is their mistake. Every ship we build, every system we infiltrate, every life we save, it brings us closer to the day we will take the fight to them. And when that day comes, they will remember that humans are never to be underestimated." Her words were more than motivation. They were strategy. Mara's plans were methodical. Each victory had a purpose: to weaken supply chains, to draw out alien forces, to prepare for the larger war that was coming. Entire star systems became silent training grounds, where humans tested their stolen technology and honed their tactics. Small skirmishes escalated into full-blown strikes that forced the Veydrath to respond, exposing weaknesses they had never anticipated. It was during one such strike on the asteroid belt of Zephyr's Edge that humanity's new tactics truly proved their worth. Mara led a squadron of retrofitted corvettes in an ambush against a Veydrath supply convoy. Using cloaking fields adapted from stolen tech, her fleet moved like shadows. The attack was precise. Within minutes, supply pods erupted in controlled explosions, and alien pilots scrambled in confusion. Not a single human ship was lost. The victory was more than strategic. It was symbolic. Word spread across human colonies. We were rising. Survivors who had once cowered in fear now volunteered for missions, eager to strike against a species that had destroyed their home. The morale of humanity soared as small victories accumulated, each one feeding the growing legend of the hidden human armada. Yet the Veydrath were beginning to notice. Analysts in their command centers frowned at reports of inexplicable attacks. Primitive, they muttered. How can they strike with such precision? Their fleets are laughable. The word primitive echoed ironically among the human operatives who intercepted the communications. Every mistake made by the Veydrath, every underestimation, fueled the human rise. In the darkness of space, Mara Kaelen prepared for the next phase. "We've learned their tactics," she told her lieutenants. "We've stolen their technology. We've turned their arrogance into our weapon. Soon, it will not be enough for them to hunt us. They will face us as equals. And when they do, they will wish they had never mocked humanity." The hidden rise was not just about survival. It was about transformation. Humanity was evolving, becoming something the Veydrath could not anticipate. Clever, relentless, and united. Every colony contributed to the armada. Every survivor had a role, and every victory, small or large, was a step closer to reclaiming what had been stolen. By the time Mara Kaelen looked upon the assembled fleet in the orbit of Droska 9, the human armada was no longer a dream. Hundreds of ships, armed with stolen technology and manned by determined humans, glimmered in the light of distant suns. They were ready. The Veydrath had assumed humanity was primitive. They had assumed we would fade quietly among the stars. They had assumed wrong. Humanity was rising, hidden but unstoppable, and the galaxy was about to learn that no empire, no matter how vast, could extinguish the fire of human ingenuity. In the shadows of the stars, the first whispers of revolution began to spread. The hidden rise had begun, and would not end until the Veydrath Empire itself trembled beneath human hands. The War of Shadows. The galaxy had begun to whisper the name of humanity in hushed tones, and the Veydrath Empire was growing uneasy. What they had once dismissed as primitive survivors had transformed into a cunning, adaptable adversary, striking from the shadows with precision that defied logic. Humanity no longer hid in fear. They were predators in the void, hunting where the Veydrath least expected. Commander Mara Kaelen stood on the bridge of the flagship Aegis Dawn, her gaze fixed on the holographic star map projected before her. Dozens of human fleets, retrofitted alien warships, and stealth corvettes were scattered across the systems under human control. Each represented a small victory, a foothold gained through ingenuity and sheer will. But this was only the beginning. Their supply lines are weakening, Mara said to her council. Their patrols are predictable. Every strike we launch teaches us more about their weaknesses. Soon, the Veydrath will know fear, not for the weapons we wield, but for the humans commanding them. The War of Shadows was not fought like conventional battles. Humanity lacked the raw firepower of the Veydrath Empire, but had something far more dangerous: adaptability and cunning. Fleets slipped through asteroid belts cloaked in stolen stealth technology. Hacked navigation systems sent enemy ships into deadly collisions with uncharted debris fields. Mines were planted in hyperspace corridors, detonating with calculated timing, leaving no survivors and no trace of human involvement. One operation, codenamed Silent Eclipse, became a turning point. Mara led a strike team deep into the Veydrath control system of Thrinder Prime. Intelligence suggested a major weapon cache and command hub were located there, heavily guarded by elite fleets. Mara's plan was audacious. Using cloaked frigates and decoy drones, humans lured the Veydrath fleet into a narrow asteroid field. The alien ships, overconfident in their numbers, pursued the bait, unaware that Mara had rigged the field with gravitational traps and plasma mines. In a sudden explosion of calculated chaos, dozens of enemy vessels were destroyed or disabled. Human corvettes, small and agile, struck swiftly, disabling communication arrays and seizing the weapon hub. The victory sent shockwaves across both human and alien territories. News of Mara's triumph traveled from colony to colony, inspiring resistance movements and rallying isolated survivors. The Veydrath, in contrast, were forced into damage control, scrambling fleets and tightening security, unwittingly playing into humanity's hands. Human operatives also infiltrated Veydrath data networks. Using alien languages and protocols they had painstakingly learned, small teams hacked into command systems, planting false intelligence and redirecting fleets into traps. One such deception led an entire armada into a star's corona, where the heat and radiation annihilated hundreds of alien ships. Humanity's losses were minimal, their tactics surgical. But war is never without cost. Every victory left scars. Colonies were occasionally discovered and destroyed, ambushes went awry, and lives were lost in the void. Mara grieved privately for those she could not save, but she understood the harsh truth. To reclaim the galaxy, sacrifices were inevitable. Humanity's survival depended on their ability to strike decisively and disappear before the Veydrath could retaliate. Amid the chaos, Mara forged alliances among human colonies. Scientists, engineers, and soldiers from disparate worlds were united under a single banner. Every victory in the shadows strengthened the human network, creating a web of resistance that spanned multiple star systems. Children who had grown up fearing alien domination now trained as pilots and tacticians, learning the art of stealth sabotage and guerrilla warfare. Humanity was evolving at an unprecedented pace, becoming an empire of its own, one built not on conquest, but on ingenuity, resilience, and adaptability. The Veydrath, growing increasingly paranoid, began deploying more forces to guard key systems. Their fleets, once proud and untouchable, were now stretched thin, constantly anticipating ambushes and traps. This overextension created openings for human strikes, which Mara exploited mercilessly. Supply chains crumbled, communication networks failed, and the once invincible empire realized that their arrogance had blinded them. Humanity was no longer primitive. Humanity was a storm, gathering in the shadows, ready to strike where it mattered most. As Mara prepared her forces for the next phase, she gathered her top commanders. We fought in the shadows, hidden from their eyes, and we've learned their weaknesses, she said. The War of Shadows has been our proving ground, but now we move toward the heart of the Empire. The throne world of the Veydrath will not remain untouched. They have underestimated us for too long. Soon, we will show them the cost of that arrogance. The human fleet surged forward, leaving behind the systems they had liberated, knowing the Veydrath would pursue, but by then it would be too late. Mara's vision of victory was clear. They would take the fight to the enemy, strike decisively, and claim what had been stolen from them. The War's shadows had proven one undeniable truth. Humanity, thought to be primitive, had learned to wield strategy, technology, and cunning like no other. Every skirmish, every strike, every stolen ship brought them closer to the day when the Veydrath would no longer mock them, but beg for mercy. And that day, Mara Kaelen vowed, would soon arrive. Humanity would rise from the shadows and march toward the Throneworld itself, a force born of fire, loss, and unyielding resolve. The galaxy would witness a new truth. Never underestimate humans, for in the darkest corners of space, they had learned to strike like gods. Throne of the Veydrath. The throne world loomed ahead like a jewel of arrogance suspended in the void. The Veydrath Empire had built it to reflect their supremacy. Massive towers of black metal and crystalline energy, orbital fortresses bristling with weapons, and fleets that stretched across the system like a living barrier. To them, it was untouchable. To humanity, it was the prize they had long prepared for. Commander Mara Kaelen stood on the bridge of the Aegis Dawn, the flagship of the human armada, her gaze fixed on the swirling defenses. Behind her, hundreds of ships, stolen and retrofitted, glimmered in formation. Every pilot, every engineer, every soldier knew the stakes. This was no longer a war in the shadows. It was a final reckoning. The Veydrath thought we were primitive, Mara said, her voice calm but fierce. They thought we were weak, scattered, powerless. Today, they will learn the truth. Humanity does not yield. Humanity does not surrender. Humanity conquers. The assault began not with brute force, but with deception. Cloaked frigates infiltrated orbital space, sabotaging shields, communications, and energy conduits. Human operatives hijacked Veydrath drones and turned them against the defenders, spreading confusion through the ranks. The alien fleet scrambled, uncertain of where the next strike would come from. Mara's tactics had been honed over years of hidden warfare. While the main fleet engaged the outer defenses, smaller human squadrons darted through asteroid belts and debris fields, striking key fortresses and weapon platforms. Explosions illuminated the darkness of space, each one a statement of defiance against an empire that had once thought humans unworthy of notice. Inside the throne world, the alien leadership panicked. Intelligence reports flooded the command towers. Fleets destroyed, defense systems offline, critical infrastructure sabotaged. Their arrogance had blinded them, and now fear took root. Mara knew that physical conquest alone was not enough. To truly claim the throne world, humanity had to strike at the heart of the empire, the command nexus where the ruling council of the Veydrath plotted and commanded. A daring infiltration team, led by Mara herself, slipped through the chaos in stealth shuttles, bypassing orbital defenses to reach the central citadel. The corridors of the throne world were cold and alien, yet Mara moved with purpose. Her team neutralized guards, bypassed security protocols, and navigated the labyrinthine passages with precision. Every step forward was a reminder that the humans who had once cowered beneath alien fire had become masters of their enemy's domain. At last, they reached the throne chamber. The Veydrath Council, a circle of towering, armored figures, looked down in disbelief. Their voices, once commanding, faltered as Mara stepped forward. "You called us primitive," she said, her tone unwavering. "You erased our world, scattered our people, and assumed we would vanish. You were wrong. Humanity endures. Humanity adapts. Humanity rises. And today, this throne belongs to us." A battle erupted within the chamber. Precision strikes, combat training, and ingenuity clashing against the Empire's elite. Mara's team moved as one, coordinated, relentless, unstoppable. Within moments, the Council was defeated, their defenses crumbling before the tide of human determination. Back in orbit, The human fleet had shattered the Throneworld's outer defenses. Veydrath's ships either surrendered or fled, their morale broken. Humanity's flags, symbols of resilience and ingenuity, now flew where the Empire's banners had once claimed dominance. Mara Kaelen stood on the Throneworld's highest balcony, gazing across the alien citadel. The stars stretched endlessly beyond, but humanity had carved its place among them. From the ashes of Earth to the hidden colonies, through ambushes and skirmishes, humanity had risen, not as prey, not as primitive beings, but as masters of their destiny. The galaxy would remember this day. The Veydrath had underestimated humans, believing that firepower alone could dictate the outcome. They had learned too late that human strength was not in their ships or weapons, but in their adaptability, resilience, and unyielding will. They thought we were primitive, Mara said softly, almost to herself. Now we rule their throne. And so humanity claimed its first empire, not by conquest-born cruelty, but by intelligence, courage, and an unwavering spirit. The stars were no longer indifferent witnesses. They were a canvas for the humans who had survived, adapted, and risen. Humanity had not only survived the fire of annihilation, they had transformed it into a blazing testament to their power, and the galaxy would never forget. The Throneworld, once a symbol of alien supremacy, now stood under human command. Mara Kaelen looked out the horizon, knowing that this was only the beginning. Humanity had conquered not just a world, but the prejudice that had once sought to erase them. And from that day forward, every corner of the galaxy would know the truth. Underestimate humanity, and you invite your own downfall.